Welcome to the good, the bad and the ugly. Where the mighty have fallen, the good get ugly, and there's no such thing as bad publicity. This time we dig beneath the glossy veneer of 5 charismatic celebrities who look as though butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. Even if you've never watched a game of soccer in your life, you'll have no trouble recognising ex-England captain David Beckham. Born outside London in 1975, he played with Manchester United for 11 years, during which they won the Premiership title 6 times. He moved to Real Madrid in 2003, and in January 2007, he landed a contract in the US to captain Major League Soccer's Los Angeles Galaxy. The $250 million it was going to cost the club over 5 years was nothing compared to the profile-raising potential of having the world's most famous player on their side. With Major League Soccer desperately in need of a publicity boost, he was being billed as a knight in shining armor.
We're all really excited because Beckham's Beckham's my favorite player, and everybody loves him. So I think it'll draw a lot more people to come to Galaxy games and be more into soccer.
He'll do the same thing that Pelé did in the 70s when he came to New York, Cosmos. He will hit even bigger because he's charming and he's still at his prime.
And Bex played the role to the hilt, hugging children and waving at fans throughout an endless roll call of personal appearances and friendly matches around the world to help stimulate interest in American soccer. 2 years later, despite being well into his 30s, demand for his services was still running so red hot that he had to reach a unique timeshare deal that allowed him to split his playing time between Galaxy and Italian super team Inter Milan. Then there's his front page status as half of celebrity juggernaut Posh and Becks. The pair met when the Spice Girls singer attended a Manchester United game in 1997. As they amalgamated their multi-million-dollar fortunes in a £500,000 ceremony in Luttrelston Castle in 1999, Posh and Becks confirmed their commitment to flashy extravagance and set up home in a £15 million pile dubbed Buckingham Palace. Thanks to David's impossibly good looks and Victoria's business sense, they carefully crafted Brand Beckham, establishing David's astonishing portfolio of sponsorship contracts. Bex' endorsements range from health and fitness specialists, fashion magazines and perfume manufacturers to hairstylists, exercise promoters and his own range of underwear.
I've done quite a few photo shoots before, but I've never done any in my underwear. So I was slightly, I wasn't sure about the whole thing, but, with working with Meta Marcus, they made me feel really at ease and it went pretty well.
No matter what angle he's photographed from, he never seems to have a bad side, and the same could almost be said of his private life. As Victoria attempted to establish some credibility as a solo artist in between giving birth to their 3 boys, Brooklyn, Romeo and Cruz, David was always on hand to play the doting husband and father.
We was very happy. It's a week early, but everything's very well. The baby's very well, and Victoria's really good. So, we're very happy.
When he left Posh and the kids at home to play for Real Madrid in 2003, it seemed that the world's most famous sporting celebrity couldn't put a foot wrong. Ironically, it was while playing in the fate-tempting strip of the All Whites that he showed the first hint of an off-field stumble. In 2004, the News of the World published claims by his personal assistant that she'd had a torrid affair with Bex. Having already employed the services of master media manipulator Max Clifford, Rebecca Lewes stood to make £1 million from spilling the beans on Britain's most adored public figure since Princess Diana. Meanwhile, Bex rubbished the claims he'd been playing away from home, and Posh swore blind she believed him. But even as Rebecca-gate raged on, the Beckham PR machine was forced to pour cold water on claims that David had also done the dirty with a high-class call girl named Sarah Marbeck in Singapore and had subsequently been bombarding her phone with lewd text messages. The following year, after Victoria had given birth to their third son, the children's former nanny, Abby Gibson, claimed all was not well inside Camp Beckham and that she'd overheard several vicious rows between the couple. Finally, David spoke up.
I've been brought up to treat women in the right way, to treat women with respect. And I know for a fact that if I didn't do that, my mother would be the first one over here and to tell me off. So, you know, that's why I know and I can get on with my football and enjoy my football, because at the end of the day, we're happy and we love each other. So that's all I can say about that.
And within no time, his alleged indiscretions were forgiven, and Victoria copped the blame for leaving her poor, defenceless husband alone in Spain. She stuck close by him ever since, and the gutter press has had nothing to report. But now that he's spending so much time away in Italy, no doubt the news of the world will be on the prowl. Carl Lewis is another sportsman who has traded on his sweetly photogenic looks. His baby face and goody two-shoes image were staple ingredients of the international athletic scene throughout the 80s and 90s. He opened his Olympics account in the Los Angeles Games of 1984 with an incredible deposit of 4 gold medals, taking top honours in the 100 and 200 metre sprints, as well as the long jump and the 100 metre relay. 12 years later, in Atlanta, his third-round leap of 8 meters 50 won him a record-breaking 9th Olympic gold medal to go with his 8 World Championship wins. One of those gold medals had been delivered by default at the 1988 Olympics in Seoul. In the 100 meters, he'd finished more than 1/10 of a second behind wild-eyed Canadian sprinter Ben Johnson. But when Ben tested positive for steroids, Carl was declared the winner. Like David Beckham, his flamboyant dress sense and sharp haircuts attracted plenty of attention in the press, while his tendency towards self-congratulation reminded some commentators of the hyperbole of Muhammad Ali. Even more than a decade after retiring, he referred to himself in the third person while commenting on the performance of swimmer Michael Phelps, who had just overtaken his record of 9 golds at the 2008 Olympics.
I always said that I would love to see the next Carl Lewis, and I don't know that Michael is because he's in the water, and I can't swim that well. But I will say that to see someone have this type of accomplishment is just tremendous, and I think it's wonderful.
And like fellow jumper and sprinter Marion Jones, he drew repeated attention to his drug-free status, promoting himself as one of the sport's few clean athletes. That self-righteousness took something of a knock in 2003 when it was revealed that Carl had tested positive 3 times before the controversial 1988 Olympics for pseudoephedrine and other banned stimulants. However, the United States Olympic Committee had accepted his claim that he'd used them inadvertently, and he was cleared to compete in the Games. World Anti-Doping Agency Chairman Dick Pound slammed the no-intent defence and claimed that the whole system had turned into a joke. Carl shrugged it all off as a storm in a teacup and has continued raking in earnings from his personal appearances and masterclasses.
We want you to leave today with an idea of how that you can run faster.
Ahead of the Athens Olympics, he was prevailed upon by Swatch to wax lyrical about timing.
Timing in our sport was extremely important because that's the basis of records, that's the basis of the races. You know, the final race is always run against someone else, but all the way up until then, it's only up against time. So it's important to get every little ounce out of performance out of each race, because that's the only way we're going to continue to improve on records. You see, people say, oh, there's a limit to records. I don't believe there's a limit. I believe that records will always be broken.
No doubt he was on time for the penultimate leg of the 2004 torch relay, which delivered the flame to its ancient home at the Acropolis in Athens. 4 years later, he was back in action at Beijing, providing specialist comments on his country's chances on the track.
Well, I think for everybody, everyone's nervous because you never lose that no matter who you are. But the big thing is just getting ready for tremendous competition. And I think that people can look at the big three who are running well, but I think that you shouldn't overlook other people, because I believe the Olympics always brings out the best in everyone, and we should have a great competition.
Now reportedly pursuing an acting career, he's put in a few cameo appearances in films like Perfect Strangers, Speed Zone and Material Girls. Back in 2005, Denise Richards was cast in the role of long-suffering wife and mother. Pregnant with her second daughter, Lola Rose, she filed for divorce from Charlie Sheen. Among the litany of complaints against her husband were claims that he had been physically and verbally abusive towards her and had threatened to have her killed. The fact that Charlie had accidentally shot his previous wife, Kelly Preston, added weight to Denise's assertions, which were padded out with allegations of a wide range of erratic and dangerous behavior by Charlie, including addictions to porn, gambling and prescription drugs. He denied it all vigorously, and the divorce was finalized in 2006, amicably, according to their lawyers. Just as she was basking in the glow of that victory, TMZ.com got hold of a story that put paid to her chances of hanging on to the moral high ground. Reports emerged that she'd sought solace in the arms of Bon Jovi guitarist Richie Sambora, tempting him away from his 10-year marriage to Denise's best friend, Heather Locklear. Denise defended herself by contending that Heather and Richie were already separated at the time.
I don't know. I'm not a husband stealer. I didn't steal a husband. That's been a big one that's been out there.
But gossip columnists deemed there was no excuse for muscling in on a best friend's ex. And Heather's subsequent descent into depression, which led to a stint in rehab and an arrest for driving under the influence of a controlled substance, did nothing to improve the media's opinion of the actress and former model. In an attempt to reverse the tide of disapproval, she roped her daughters into appearing with her on her own reality TV show, Denise Richards' It's Complicated.
Well, I'd be lying if I said it was easy. The last 3 years have been very difficult. To go through these things personally is very hard, but then to have it all public is 10 times harder. It's humiliating. But, you know, I have my daughters and I just have to move forward.
It was time for ex-husband Charlie to assume the moral high ground by labeling her show plans greedy, vain and exploitative, and attempting to get the court to ban her from including their daughters. However, his attempt failed, and Denise was looking at a tidy settlement.
The truth is we haven't settled our finances, and when the check clears, I'll take it. I'm like any single mom. I have bills to pay like everyone else.
And she defended her insistence on putting her girls in the spotlight.
You know, I wanted this show to be real, and the reality is I'm a single mom to 2 little girls, and I would be manipulating the show if I didn't have them in it, but everything's real. I decided I'm just gonna bear all, be myself, be very candid, and for better or worse, then people could judge for themselves.
Bizarrely, although she was the one with the reality TV show, she hit out at her ex-husband for blabbing about their private lives.
You know what, I would really prefer to keep our dirty laundry between the two of us, and he chooses to do otherwise, and that's his choice. I want to protect the girls. They'll one day see and read all of this.
Meanwhile, Charlie had clearly moved on, enjoying his status as the highest paid actor on TV for his ongoing role as hedonistic ladies' man Charlie Harper in the sitcom 2.5 Men. He's now married to real estate investor Brooke Mueller, who gave birth to twin boys in March 2009. Affectionately nicknamed Zizou by his legion of loyal fans, former French captain Zinedine Zidane is revered as one of the living legends of football. He enjoyed the kind of epic career that even the best Hollywood scriptwriter would have been pushed to dream up. Your memory lives deeply in the minds of the French people. Zinedine's incredible journey began in Le Castellane, one of the poorest immigrant quarters of the French city Marseille. Born to Algerian parents, he honed his skills in the dimly lit alleyways for hours each day, and it soon became clear that he was destined for something special. By the age of 24, he was playing for Italian super club Juventus. 2 years later, the World Cup was being hosted by France for the first time in 60 years, and Zizou became a national hero after scoring 2 goals in the World Cup final to take France to victory over defending champions Brazil. I don't have too much to say, except I'd like to thank you all for your good wishes. Take care and enjoy this moment. As well as being named FIFA World Player of the Year, he took out the European Footballer of the Year title. He also made it on to the FIFA All-Star team for his performances in the World Cup. His trademark humility and politeness earned him just as much praise as his incredible ball skills, and he was hailed as the perfect sporting role model. As well as developing a reputation as a devoted family man to his wife Veronique and 3 young sons, he showed a unique determination to give back to society, playing charity matches and funding projects in developing nations and visiting victims of natural disasters. After proving himself worth every penny of the record £44 million transfer fee that took him from Juventus to Real Madrid, he announced his retirement from football in 2006. Looking for the fairy tale finish to his glittering career, he set his sights on a second dose of global glory and put his hand up to rejoin the national team for the 2006 World Cup. With Brazil already out of the competition, his team went into the 2006 World Cup final as favourites to beat Italy. Tragically for Zinedine, it would come to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Late in extra time, with the scores tied at 1 apiece, Zinedine was in the thick of the action, and with a piece of sheer brilliance that only Zizou could manufacture, he drilled a scorching but unsuccessful shot on goal, and then, in what can only be described as a mental meltdown, he suddenly stopped, turned and rammed his head into Marco Materazzi's chest, knocking him to the ground. Zidane was sent off and missed the match-deciding penalty shootout, which France lost 3-5. All hopes of a fairy tale finish had gone up in a puff of smoke. After reviewing video evidence that suggested Materazzi had verbally provoked Zidane, both players were hauled up before governing body FIFA.
Zinedine Zidane has been suspended for 3 matches and fined with 7,500 Swiss francs. However, that's the big important information, the committee has taken note that Zinedine Zidane has ended his international career and has taken note of Zinedine Zidane's gesture to do 3 days of community service within the FIFA humanitarian activities.
Marco Materazzi copped a 2-match national team suspension for verbally provoking Zidane. The Italian later admitted he'd made derogatory comments about Zizou's sister, throwing Zidane into a frenzy. While many commentators had been flabbergasted by the Frenchman's quickness to temper at such a crucial juncture in the game, Materazzi had clearly done his homework. It wasn't the first time that Zinedine had suffered a rush of blood to the head. Back in 1998, during his first World Cup, he'd been sent off for stamping on a Saudi defender's head after being verbally abused. He was sent off again in 2006 after receiving 2 yellow cards in as many matches for pushing a defender. With his well-timed insult, Materazzi had penetrated the French hero's Achilles heel and brought him crashing down in humiliating defeat. Instead of bringing home the most coveted prize in football, he became the first player to be sent off in extra time of a World Cup final, the 4th to receive a red card in a final, and only the 2nd player to be sent off in 2 separate World Cups. Thankfully, upon his team's return to Paris, President Jacques Chirac was in a compassionate mood.
Cher Zinedine Zidane, ce que je veux vous dire, Au moment le plus intense peut-être
Zinedine Zidane.
de votre carrière,
I want to express all the nation's admiration,
et c'est
fondness,
l'affection.
and respect as
La
well.
nation tout entière, son respect aussi.
Despite these very difficult moments of your career.
Vous êtes un virtuose,
You are a brilliant soccer
un
player,
génie du football mondial.
a genius of the football.
Vous êtes aussi
You are a passionate man,
de
a
cœur,
man of conviction,
d'engagement, de
and that is
conviction.
why France admires you and loves you.
France vous admire et vous aime.
They don't come much more innocent than the 6-year-old star of E.T., the extraterrestrial. With her heart-shaped smile, dimply cheeks and adorable lisp, Drew Barrymore melted hearts as Gertie in Steven Spielberg's children's classic. Who could have predicted that such wide-eyed naivety would convert into pie-eyed debauchery by the time she turned 10? Her regular visits to the infamous Studio 54 nightclub and affinity for intoxicating substances ended with a spell in rehab at the age of 13 and an attempt at suicide the year after. With many people predicting that her promising career, if not her life, was all but over, she threw all her baggage into her 1990 autobiography, Little Girl Lost, and then filed a successful petition in juvenile court to be emancipated from her parents before mounting a comeback campaign. One of her first memorable reappearances was as the first course on the Killer's menu in the 1995 horror spoof Scream. She also starred in Boys on the Side along with Whoopi Goldberg and Mary Louise Parker, before rising up Hollywood's A-list through a string of romantic comedies like The Wedding Singer and Wishful Thinking. Not content with her upward trajectory through the acting ranks, she set up Flower Films and produced, as well as starred in, the chick-kicking blockbuster Charlie's Angels, alongside Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu. By the time the sequel was released in 2003, Drew had sealed her place in the glittering firmament and was invited to join 4 of her acting ancestors on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
This is such an honor. My grandfather's profile and feet and hands are right there. And I'm so appreciative that you guys came out today. It makes it so much more special. I'm so thankful to the city. I'm so thankful to all my friends and family and my bosses at Sony. And that's what you were first.
Still charming the birds out of the trees and looking like butter wouldn't melt, she'd become one of the most powerful women in Hollywood. Although things haven't gone quite so well on the love front. After a 1-month marriage to bar owner Jeremy Thomas and a 1-year marriage to comedian Tom Green, she took things rather steadier with Strokes drummer Fabrizio Moretti until they broke up in January 2007. Her spirits were no doubt lifted by appearing on the cover of the 2007 People magazine's 100 Most Beautiful issue and being named the new face of CoverGirl Cosmetics. Although, having come this far on her own terms, she wasn't about to sell her soul.
I hold that philosophy that it is really important to be yourself, and I hope that's why they picked me, because I'm utterly myself. But I do love makeup, and I do love playing with it, so I felt like the philosophies and that it was a good match.